The story begins on a ruined battlefield, where four fearless warriors confront the Demon King in a decisive final clash that will determine the future of the entire world. Standing side by side, they combine their spells, sword skills, and flawless teamwork to challenge the monstrous enemy before them. Even though the Demon King's power is terrifyingly beyond normal limits, none of them back down and they keep attacking with everything they have. When the fight finally reaches its breaking point, the blonde hero spots a brief weakness and thrusts his blade deep into the Demon King's head. Right after that, the mage of the group releases a devastating lightning spell, sending a violent bolt crashing down on the Demon King with unbelievable force. And after taking countless wounds throughout the battle, the Demon King has finally reached his limit, and he releases one last furious scream before crashing heavily to the ground. For a moment, one of the warriors simply stares in disbelief, unable to accept that they have truly defeated the Demon Lord. Not too long after, a magnificent ceremony is held to honor the warriors who protected the world. The four warriors kneel proudly before the king while a huge crowd gathers to celebrate their victory against the Demon King. As recognition for their incredible accomplishments, the king grants them the title of the Four Emperors, an honor given only to the most exceptional mages in the kingdom. One of the warriors, Ethel, is completely shocked by the announcement. He knows that throughout history, only those born into noble families were ever allowed to receive the title of emperor, so he can barely believe what he is hearing, and he admits that this reward is far beyond anything he ever expected. The king then steps toward Ethel himself and speaks to him in front of everyone, saying that even if Ethel is not the strongest mage alive, his achievements and the role he played in saving the world cannot be denied, and because of that, he has fully earned the right to carry the title of emperor. From this moment on, he will be known as the Lightning Emperor, and those words instantly bring Ethel to tears. The crowd bursts into thunderous cheers as he tries to control his emotions. After spending 40 long years studying, training, and perfecting his magic, he has finally been acknowledged for his lifetime of effort. Ethel leaves the ceremony feeling prouder than he has ever felt before. For the first time in his life, he truly believes that every sacrifice he made was worth it. Many years have passed since that unforgettable day, and Ethel has now become an old man. And one day, he stands outside in silence, looking out across the wide open fields. And moments later, a young girl named Merlin approaches him and respectfully tells him that breakfast is ready inside. And after about an hour, Ethel is seen guiding his students as he teaches them how to properly maintain a magic circle. The students concentrate with serious expressions, doing their best to keep their circles active for as long as they can. But during the lesson, one of the students suddenly breaks his focus, causing the magic circle in front of him to vanish. Ethel catches it right away and firmly tells him not to quit and explains that concentration is the foundation every mage must master. If he cannot keep a magic circle stable while standing perfectly still, then there is no chance he will be able to hold one together while casting spells in the middle of a real fight. Motivated by Ethel's advice, the boy quickly steadies himself and begins again. A while later, Ethel finally ends the exercise. The students let their magic circles fade and get ready for what comes next. But instead of giving them time to breathe, Ethel immediately says they should move straight into level 4 spell practice. Before the next lesson can begin, Merlin suddenly interrupts him. She notices how worn out Ethel looks and tells him he should stop for a while and rest. Ethel casually brushes off her concern, insisting that he is perfectly fine. But when he sees the worry in Merlin's eyes, he falls silent for a brief moment because her expression reminds him of the first day they ever met. His mind slips back to many years ago, not long after his party defeated the Demon Lord. Around that time, Ethel discovered Merlin when she was still only a baby. She had been abandoned after her mother was killed in the conflict connected to his own party. The memory weighs heavily on him, filling his chest with guilt. He quietly wonders whether Merlin would despise him if she ever uncovered the truth about the war and learned that he had taken the lives of so many people from her clan. After a short pause, Ethel forces those thoughts away and brings himself back to the present. He tells the students to continue working on their level 4 magic, but before anyone can begin, Merlin speaks up again. Wearing a confident smile, she announces that she is ready to start learning level 6 spells instead. After all, she is one of Ethel's most gifted students. Ethel is genuinely impressed by her confidence and determination. Even then, he gently tells her there is no need to rush so far ahead. He promises that she will eventually learn those advanced spells, but for now, she needs to strengthen her fundamentals. Once training ends, Merlin ventures deep into the forest by herself. She is determined to defeat the beast hiding inside a nearby cave. To her, taking down such a dangerous monster would prove that she is Ethel's finest student. More than that, she believes that once she becomes strong enough to teach others on her own, Ethel will finally be able to stop pushing himself so hard and get the rest he truly needs. But sadly, her plan fails almost instantly when the beast proves far stronger than she expected, forcing her to sprint through the forest with a massive wolf-like monster right behind her. Merlin had already struck the monster with level 4 magic, yet the attack had failed to leave even the smallest mark. That alone made it clear that ordinary spells would never be enough to bring it down. With no other choice left, Merlin decided to gamble everything on a spell far beyond her current ability. She started chanting a level 6 spell, despite never managing to cast one properly before. But this time, to her own shock, the magic responded. A powerful bolt of level 6 lightning shot forward and slammed directly into the beast. The impact tore through the forest, shaking the ground and sending smoke and dust flying everywhere. Seeing the huge explosion, Merlin was certain she had finally defeated it. But then the monster emerged from the cloud of smoke without a single injury, and before Merlin could even process what had happened, the beast swung one of its massive paws and sent her flying with brutal force. She crashed hard against the ground, barely able to move as she struggled to push herself back up. The giant wolf-like creature slowly closed in on her, ready to tear her apart, and at that moment, Merlin realized there was no way for her to escape. Just as the beast was about to finish her off, Ethel appeared out of nowhere and rescued her at the very last second. The moment she was safe, Ethel scolded her for foolishly entering the forest by herself. Filled with guilt, Merlin kept apologizing again and again. Ethel then told her that she had more talent and potential than any student he had ever taught. However, he warned her that chasing strength too desperately would only put her in danger. If she tried to grow stronger without first building a solid foundation, then even the power she gained could vanish before she truly learned how to control it. While they were talking, Merlin suddenly noticed that the beast was still alive and standing right behind Ethel. But Ethel did not panic, hesitate, or even turn around. Instead, he calmly released a level 10 lightning spell, and in an instant, a massive wave of electricity burst from his body and completely obliterated the monster. Later, Merlin could not stop praising how amazing Ethel had looked when he saved her. Eventually, Ethel told her to stop talking and go to sleep. Merlin finally gave up and began heading toward her bed, but then she suddenly turned back and saw Ethel coughing up blood. For the past several years, he had been suffering from an incurable illness, and his condition had only continued to worsen with time. Seeing the fear in Merlin's eyes made Ethel understand the truth. She had known about his sickness for a long time, and that was exactly why she had been forcing herself to grow stronger so quickly. Merlin softly asked Ethel to take better care of himself and rest whenever he could, but Ethel told her that he did not have much time left, and because of that, he had no intention of spending his final years trapped in bed, simply waiting for death to come. Instead, he wanted to use whatever time remained to keep doing the thing he loved most. He wanted to guide gifted students like her and help them grow into powerful mages. Ethel then admitted that he had always dreamed of becoming the strongest mage. Hearing this left Merlin confused because in her eyes he had already reached that level. And after all, he was the man known as the Lightning Emperor. Ethel tells her that he understands why she would see it that way, but reality is not so simple. Although he was the oldest of the emperors and had accomplished more than most mages could ever dream of, there had always been an obvious distance between him and certain members of his old party. Because of that, Ethel had never once believed that he truly stood at the very top. The following morning, one of Ethel's students arrives at his room and knocks on the door before telling him that the Flame Emperor has finally finished his research into magical aptitude. Interested, Ethel immediately begins reading through the report, and it does not take long for him to realize that the Flame Emperor has discovered a method to measure a person's natural talent for magic. Since everyone had always believed such a thing could never be done, Ethel cannot help but praise him as an absolute genius. Eager to try the method for himself, Ethel places one of Merlin's hairs into a test tube and begins the experiment. Moments later, different colors appear inside the tube, revealing the strength of her magical affinities. The results show that Merlin has S-rank talent in both wind and water magic, which is an outstanding result. On top of that, she has B-rank talent for fire magic and C-rank talent for earth magic. Since Ethel has been raising Merlin since she was an infant, he can immediately tell that the test is accurate. Until now, students had no choice but to spend years learning basic spells from every element, and only after enough training could teachers roughly guess which type of magic someone was naturally suited for. But with this new discovery, a person's aptitude can be identified from the moment they are born. That means training can become far more focused, allowing gifted students to develop their abilities much faster. After seeing this, Ethel asks to take the test as well, but Merlin instantly tells him there is no point because his results would obviously be perfect. However, Ethel still insists and explains that even if he was never able to reach the highest level of magic, he at least wants to know whether he ever had the potential to reach it. The experiment is carried out, but when the result appears, the tube remains completely colorless. One of the students checks the instructions and nervously explains that a colorless result means the person has no magical aptitude whatsoever. However, he quickly adds that the test must have failed somehow, because Ethel is still one of the most powerful mages in the world. For a brief moment, Ethel completely loses his calm and demands that they run the test again. The students repeat the experiment several more times, but nothing changes. Every result comes back exactly the same, completely colorless. As Ethel continues staring at the empty tube, the truth slowly starts sinking in. He remembers how much longer it always took him to learn magic compared to everyone else. He remembers how the other emperors kept surpassing him no matter how desperately he trained. And for the first time, everything finally makes sense. The reason he had always fallen behind was not that he lacked effort, it was because he had been born with no magical aptitude at all. That realization shatters him completely. and he suddenly begins coughing violently as Merlin rushes to his side in panic. A while later, she gently knocks on his door and tells him she brought some water for him, but Ethel coldly orders her not to come inside. Left by himself in bed, his thoughts begin drifting through the long road of his life. For decades, he had chased one impossible dream: to stand at the very peak of magic. But now that dream had been shattered beyond repair. No matter how desperately he trained or how much knowledge he gathered, he simply never possessed the natural talent required to reach that height. The weight of that truth becomes unbearable. He starts thinking about how miserable he feels, and how every bit of effort he poured into his life ended up amounting to nothing. Then, without warning, his heart gives out. In that instant, one of his abilities, known as second reincarnation, suddenly triggers. His younger form appears in a vast, empty void, where he finds himself facing a divine being once again. As he looks around, he realizes that more than 50 years have passed, and admits that he had completely forgotten about the existence of the second reincarnation. Speaking to the goddess, he recalls that this was the very place where they first met after he died in another world long ago. The deity tells him that the time for his second reincarnation has finally arrived, but before he is reborn, she reminds him that he may choose 2 bonus skills. She suggests an ability called 2 times growth, which would let him develop at double the normal speed. However, Ethel refuses it, saying that the magical knowledge he already carries is more than enough, and as long as he has time to study, practice, and improve, he has no need for unfair advantages. The goddess is clearly moved by his response, so she smiles, wishes him fortune, and sends him toward his next life. The next moment, Ethel opens his eyes inside the body of a small boy. He jolts upright as fragments of memory begin rushing back into his head. Still trying to understand what is happening, he goes downstairs, where his mother immediately welcomes him with a warm hug and tells him breakfast is ready. While eating with her, more and more memories return until the situation finally becomes obvious. This is his third life. Refusing to waste the chance he has been given, Ethel swears to himself that this time he will master magic no matter what it takes. Sadly, that hope is crushed almost immediately when he learns that he still has no magical aptitude in this new body. The revelation destroys his confidence, and he starts believing that he will once again be trapped at level 10 magic, just like before. Then one day, while resting in a field and worrying about what his future might become, a sudden uproar breaks the silence. When he looks up, he sees a furious dragon tearing through the sky with a squad of knights chasing after it in desperation. Acting on impulse, Ethel runs after them, but he soon stops himself after remembering that he is only 4 years old, meaning there is almost nothing he can do with such a young body. As he watches the dragon soar farther away, his mind drifts back to the level 10 spells he invented in his previous life. Almost without thinking, he presses his fingers together, and to his complete shock, the spell activates immediately. Then a massive blast launches into the air and slams straight into the dragon, knocking the enormous beast down with a single strike. Ethel can only stare in disbelief at the scene before him until the truth finally sinks in. Even though he has been reborn in another world, he still carries the same power and abilities he possessed at the height of his former life. This was the end of episode 2. Subscribe to not miss the next episode.